Go ahead.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Double 18 podcast live stream. We are live once again on a Tuesday night. I'm your host, Stephen Nagishi. With me, as always, from the Awful Announcing, online contributor and associate editor, my co-host, Ken Fang. Ken, good evening. How are you today?
Good, Stephen. How are you? Good to be on with you. We're on a little bit later than we normally are, but glad to be with you. But we'll be here with you for a full hour tonight.
Absolutely. And, we're very, very excited. We got a lot of things to talk about today, or I should say tonight, is the beginning of the Major League Baseball playoff wild card. I'm watching the Marlins and the Phillies on ESPN right now. And, it's a very competitive game right now. But start off, we're going to give you the an idea of, a couple of Asian players are in this. One, of course, is the Kenta Maeda with the Minnesota Twins, who finally won a playoff game after 19 years today, beating Toronto 3-1. He did not pitch today, and I don't know if he will be pitching, probably more out of a bullpen role, perhaps. Speaking of a bullpen guy, Shintaro Fujinami with the Baltimore Orioles. Man, what a revelation this guy has been. Mm-hmm. He started off with the Oakland Athletics as a starter. Of course, Oakland Athletics was just a disastrous team. Still, tug of war between the city of Oakland and Las Vegas and the MLB. Not a good team. Even with a guy who struggled with his command and control throughout his career in Japan, somehow got the starting role with the A's. He wasn't that good. Mm-hmm. He was sent, before he was sent to Orioles, he was put into the bullpen because I think they've seen enough of him not pitching well as a starter. And he has done an excellent job as a middle reliever with the Orioles. He still has some, a little bit of a wildness, falling behind the count or hitting batters, even with the Orioles. But most of the time, he has been excellent. Their closer, Felix Bautista, I believe that's his name, the excellent closer for the Orioles. I think I read that he's going to get a Tommy John, unfortunately. So now if Bautista is out, so it will likely be that Fujinami and a couple of other bullpen arms will likely have to, contribute and close the game. Fujinami has a very tantalizing fastball that's been clocked at 101, 102. Seems to be that he and star catcher Audrey Rushman has done a very good job. Rushman, in particular, trying to keep him under control, and they really embrace each other after the game. So Orioles is a very good pick to come out of the the American League this year. So if you're going to watch the Orioles game, make sure you keep your eye out on Shintaro Fujinami, because this guy, if he clicks, he's going to be very, very dominant.
Yeah, as a Red Sox fan, I cannot say anything. As a rule, and living here in New England, I cannot say anything good about the Baltimore Orioles. So, I certainly hope he does well, but not. But I certainly also hope that the Baltimore Orioles will falter. So that's just my that's all I have to say on the Orioles. But I have been impressed by his pitching this year, and I think that certainly the Orioles, which of course signed a new lease to stay in the Baltimore for 30 years. Hopefully he can be with the Orioles for a very long time to come, and hopefully he will not do well against my Red Sox.
Yeah, interesting. He's actually signed a 1-year Major League contract, so he can become a free agent after this year.
Right.
Depending on how well he does in the postseason, his number could skyrocket. And, Orioles will certainly have to compete with the others to make sure that he doesn't leave elsewhere. So it will be an interesting postseason, for Shintaro Fujinami.
By the way,
go ahead, Ken.
Before we continue, if you are watching us live either on Twitter or on Facebook, We do have a place for you to leave comments. If you do wish to leave comments, certainly feel free. And if you have any questions, certainly feel free to do that. So we certainly would love to welcome your comments if you want to. We are interactive, and we are live. So just wanted to mention that to all the viewers who are watching us at this time.
All right, thank you, Ken. My Cubs, unfortunately, lost a spot on the playoffs next to last day. They had a very tight grip on it for about 2 weeks left, and then David Ross and his mishandling of the lineup as well as the bullpen mismanagement really costed the Cubs. It looks like though the Cubs are going to bring him back, which I'm not exactly happy with. So next week, scheduled for 12th of October, I am planning to bring in Alex Pat, who is the one of the hosts of one of the very popular Twitter handler when it comes to the Cubs. So we're definitely going to be talking with him. He's also a writer for Fansided and then the Cubbies Crib. So we're going to be talking a lot about the Cubs. But in the meantime, the team that took the final playoff spot in the National League is the Miami Marlins. And Miami Marlins is, of course, I remember now that it is led by the first female GM in all of sports. And that is also happens to be an Asian American, Kim Ng. So I wanted to give you, show you the screen of the article that was from NPR today about her. Here it is. Miami Marlins Kim Ng, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, is the first female GM to lead an MLB team to a playoff. So this woman has been an executive within the major leagues for a long time. She's primarily been known to be working with the Yankees, and then and then move on to the Marlins when former Yankee great Derek Jeter kind of took over as the team president, also part-time ownership role, which he has since then relinquished. And the Marlins have been somewhat of an afterthought as an organization, except for the 2 times that they won the World Series. But each subsequent years they completely dismantled the team. Even with a brand new stadium that was built almost a decade ago, they have a hard time filling that stadium, and most of the time. Teams from other cities like New York, Chicago, and LA, etc., they seem to outdraw the Marlins fans. And her accomplishment is nothing short of an amazement. And it's an interesting club that she put together. I don't know if the Marlins, who are right now playing the Phillies in Philadelphia, which they both are from the NL East, and so they've known each other through and through ever since the realignment. So the Marlins aren't exactly pushovers. They know how to play in the East against the Phillies. So very interesting to see the team that is somewhat considered of an underdog, how they handle the added pressure, and then playing in a Philadelphia where the Phillies came all the way from a wild card to represent the major National League in the World Series last year. So it's an interesting fascinating story of Kim Ng, and you can see the quote here. That's Mama Kim right there, according to star center fielder Jazz Chisholm Jr. So the player seems to respect her, and I'll be very, very curious to see, how far the Marlins can go, and if the Marlins have a staying power to be contenders for years to come.
Yeah, she's done a fantastic job. She's as you mentioned, a baseball lifer. She was also with the Los Angeles Dodgers as well. fantastic executive, worked in the front office for the Red Sox for a few seasons under Larry Lucchino and under when he was with the Red Sox. She has a great baseball mind, and really, to be honest, I've been rooting for her ever since she got the job over at the Miami Marlins. I have a feeling she knows, as you see, when during the celebration on Bally Sport, Florida, when they clinched the playoff spot. She was very proud of her team, and she should be. She should be. She brought this team together. Hopefully, the Miami market will respond, and at least the Marlins should not do what, as you mentioned, what they did in 1998 and 2004,
Yeah.
the years after they won the World Series in 97 and 03. They just, as you mentioned, dismantled the team. Jeffrey Lurie was a horrible owner, and he really did a bad job in trying to really dismantle the team. So I'm really hoping that the Marlins stay the course with Kim Ng, and I think that she's a fantastic executive. Knowing her record and what she did in the Red Sox front office and also with the Dodgers front office before moving to Miami. I know that as traditional or quote unquote old time baseball fans, she doesn't look like them. She looks more like us, Steven. But I think that she knows her baseball, and anyone who looks at her credentials will understand that she truly does know what she's doing.
Yeah, absolutely, and she truly deserves all the accolades that she's getting. There's a ugly incident that she was involved in almost 20 years ago, back when Mets special assistant Bill Singer made a racial remarks towards her. I'm gonna try and pull that clip a little bit here. So yeah, it's a reminder that the racism towards Asian Americans existed well long before the whole COVID thing happened, and it's an ugly reminder of what society that we live in. Hopefully, you can read this one here. Never forget that Kim Ng deal with this BS. Bill Singer, where you're from? Ng, I was born in Indiana and grew up in New York. Where you're from? My family is from China. And then Singer nonsensically mocked Chinese. And then what country in China? So, even the I don't know who Bill Singer was, and I don't even wish to know him, but I'm sure a guy was probably a baseball lifer and probably respected in some capacity. Even the well-respected guys are, prone to making these types of stupidity and expose themselves. So,
well, Steven, I'm sure you've gotten it before. Many times I've gotten it.
Yeah. Where you're from,
Where
really,
you're from.
stuff like that. Yeah.
I always say I'm from my mom. I always say, I came from my mom. And then everyone that pretty much shuts it down because they'll be like, oh, okay, but you really don't. But where are you really from? I go, my mom. I came from my mom's womb. Anything else you want to say? Anything else you have a question about? And that pretty much shuts it down. But yeah, we've heard it all before. Where are you originally from, or what do you do, or where? If you're, I say, like you, and then they'll say like, well, where are your parents originally from? I go, well,
right.
They came from their parents, so I just shut it down. But
right. Or even go back to where you came from, and of course, I tell them, well, I was born and raised in Chicago, so yeah, at some point I'll probably go to Chicago, and hopefully retire there or something like that.
Good for you.
I had those moments myself too, but good for Kim Ng and the Miami Marlins, even though I'm sad that the Cubs didn't make it and the Marlins took the last spot. So good luck to her and her future with the Miami Marlins moving forward. So since we're talking baseball, the last week of the regular season came to an end, and a lot of teams who were competing for the playoff spots were eliminated, and the division titles were up for grabs to a degree. I'm going to try and show you a clip from this dude, Brian McTaggart, who is the Astros beat writer for MLB.com. So this is what it all started. This was McTaggart 2-3 days ago on, let's see, October 1st, when the Astros and the Rangers both won. Mm-hmm. And, game 162 or 161 was going to determine who's going to win the AL West, which Rangers have been leader pretty much until recently. So the tweet that says here, Rangers party last night while the Astros had a champagne toast and quickly turned their attention to Sunday and one more win. Houston's been there, done that. Mentality paid off, it seems. So it seems like nothing about it, like a jab, Houston guy taking a jab at somebody or team from Dallas, because there's a fierce rivalry between Dallas versus Houston, Houston versus Dallas. As somebody who used to live in Dallas, I'm very familiar with that. Mm-hmm. Especially Dallas radio people taking a dig at the Houston sports in the city of Houston. And then Emily Jones, who is the Texas Rangers sideline reporter or a clubhouse reporter for Bally Sports Southwest, yes, responded to that tweet. Unfortunately, she deleted her tweet because after she was being harassed severely by the dumbass Astros fans, and so she responded that Rangers wild card celebration was a very brief one. After the champagne celebration, everybody took the shower, cleaned up just in time for them to watch the Astros win. Only a handful of players went out or something like that. So, it was just like a rebuttal against, chauvinistic, writing by, maybe McTaggart, maybe not necessarily targeting Emily Jones, but, again, a dig toward the Dallas market because of a guy from Houston. So, unfortunately, she is getting harassed to the point where she had to delete the Twitter, and it's an ugly side of sports cities or sports fans that we are seeing, and that we're going to be talking a little bit more about it later as well. But it's kind of very, very sad to see the media members making some blatant points where fans heat up, and they ended up attacking the reporter from another rival city or rival teams.
Yeah. So McTaggart has put out another tweet since then. He said, "A post of mine on Sunday has become a story of its own. I should clarify that I was not in the Rangers clubhouse Saturday night and should not have directly suggested that their celebration impacted their performance on Sunday." So he is
too late, dumbass.
Yeah.
Man.
Well, he has apologized for that. Of course, the Astros general manager came out and attacked him for that tweet. Original tweet.
Really? So So Brian McTaggart is now getting criticized left and right, huh?
Yeah, he got it from the Texas Rangers general manager Chris Young. Young said it was ridiculous. He said that the discussion that the Rangers celebration after clinching the clubhouse, he says it's ridiculous. He finds that it's he can't believe that it's a subject, to be honest. He said this on 105, the .3, the Fan in Dallas on Monday. He said, "This is the most professional, responsible group of players I've been around. We had a subdued champagne popping, but beyond that, there was no partying. There was nothing outlandish." So, we've seen champagne celebrations go crazy. We've seen clubhouse celebrations that have been subdued. It really shouldn't matter. What do we care? To be honest with you, it really, it's based on the team. It's also based on the manager as well. They take the personality of their leaders. So if they decide that if they don't want to do a big celebration or they want to go all out, more power to them. It really shouldn't matter. And, I don't know why, to be honest with you, Stephen, It was called out. So let's just, McTaggart has tried to, move on from it. He's got called out. So McTaggart decided that he thought that it was uh, he thought that it
The
was
least he can do,
yeah. So yeah, he apologized. So let that be the end of it.
Okay. Yeah, it's an ugly side that it's not just the fans, but the media members sometimes they think that they're doing harmless stuff, but it turns out to be that it's a lot more than they let it on. So,
Right.
all right, let's move on to another baseball story before we move on to football. We've discussed this.
You're trying to avoid what's happened in Chicago. So I know that, but
No. But we'll get to it because it's just a shit show, and I'm more than willing to talk about this. But we talked about this guy in the past, Trevor Bauer, the former Major League Baseball player who is now pitching in Japan and had a very good season, by the way. News came out, I think, yesterday that Trevor Bauer has settled a sexual assault case today with a woman by the name of, I believe, Brenda Hill, if I'm not mistaken. So, he was never arrested and he was never charged. Unfortunately, this is like only one of 4 cases that he still has to.
He has, and he's also.
Excuse me. The victim was Lindsay Hill that they settled together today. So it was crazy, and Bauer had been basically blacklisted from Major League Baseball. The suspension, which was almost a year, had been reduced, but he had to go to Japan, and his contract with the Dodgers at the time had been terminated, which was about $102 million. And so he took to Twitter and discussed in detail about what happened. I'm going to play a clip from his Twitter, let's see, his channel here momentarily. So one moment, please. Excuse me, that's not it. Here we go. Here we go.
Star pitcher for the Dodgers. A text Lindsay Hill sent to a friend before she ever even met me. What should I steal? She asked another in reference to visiting my house for the first time. The answer? Take his money. So how might that work? I'm going to his house Wednesday, she said. I already have my hooks in. You know how I roll. Then, after the first time we met, net worth is 51 mil, she said. Bitch, you better secure the bag, was the response. But how is she going to do that? Need daddy to choke me out, she said. Being an absolute whore to try to get in on his 51 million, read another text. Then, after the second time we met, former Padres pitcher Jacob Nix told her, you got to get this bag. I'll give you 50,000, Lindsay replied. Her AA sponsor asked her at one point, do you feel a tiny bit guilty? Not really, she replied. Since then, her legal team has approached me multiple times about coming to a financial settlement. But as I have done since day one, I refuse to pay her even a single cent. In August of 2021, Lindsay Hill's claims were heard in court. And during those legal proceedings, critical information was deliberately and unlawfully concealed from me and my legal team. Information like this video, which was taken by Lindsay Hill herself the morning after she claimed she was brutally attacked, emotionally traumatized, and desperate to get away from me. And now we have the metadata, so there can be no dispute. It was taken mere minutes before she left my house on the morning of May 16th, 2021, without my knowledge or consent, of course. In it, you can see her lying in bed next to me while I'm sleeping, smirking at the camera without a care in the world, or any marks on her face. I think it paints a pretty clear picture of what actually happened the evening of May 15th and why the video was originally concealed from us. After hearing the evidence available to her, Judge Diana Gold-Saltman found that Lindsay Hill had misled the court. She found her claims to be materially misleading. She denied her request for a domestic violence restraining order, and she found that no sexual assault or non-consensual conduct took place. Now, Some of you might not know about restraining order hearings. I know I didn't, but I've since learned that it's extremely rare for a request for a restraining order to be denied because the standard of proof that you need to obtain one is extremely low. So you can make of that what you will. The fact is, I was never arrested. I was never charged with a crime, and I won the only legal proceeding that took place without my side of the story even being heard. And most importantly, as I've said from day one, I never sexually assaulted Lindsay Hill, or anyone else for that matter. So I sued her, which prompted her to countersue me. Quite frankly, regardless of the outcome in court, I've paid significantly more in legal fees than Lindsay Hill could ever pay me in her entire life. And I knew that would be the case going in. But the lawsuit was never about the money for me. It was the only way for me to obtain critical information to clear my name. The discovery process in that lawsuit recently concluded, at which point Lindsay Hill's legal team again came to us with another proposal to resolve the case. This time, however, they weren't seeking any money from me. Having received much of the information that had been hidden from us, a small portion of which I've referenced here, I was willing to agree to the terms proposed. Both parties would drop their respective lawsuits, and neither of us would pay either side any money. I also retained my right to speak publicly about the case, something I have not been at liberty to do since June of 2021. So, as of today, both lawsuits have been settled. Now, over the last 2 years, I've been forced to defend my integrity and my reputation in a very public setting. But hopefully this is the last time I have to do so, as I'd prefer to just remain focused on doing my job, winning baseball games and entertaining fans around the world. So today, I'm happy to be moving on with my life.
All right. Go ahead, Ken.
Well, never been a fan of Trevor Bauer. He sued a couple of people, reporters. He likes litigation for some reason.
Right.
And he just continues to sue people left and right. Make of what you will his statement, and really, to be honest with you, that didn't like him posting that video either. I know he feels he's trying to do his reputation solid, but he really doesn't have a very good reputation. I don't think he's ever going to come back to the United States and pitch. He can still pitch in Japan, and if he wants to make money over there, that's fine, as long as he doesn't do it in the United States. He is who he is. He has a bad reputation, and Stephen, I just not a fan of his, and his settling one lawsuit and him posting that video of posting his side of the story doesn't really convince me one way or the other that about him and how I feel about him.
Okay, well, fair enough. That's true. I know he doesn't have a stellar reputation, like you said. He's a very difficult guy to talk and get along with, but he is a very smart guy. And, obviously this is one of several cases that he still has to go along with.
Yep.
And the fact is, he was blackballed in such egregious manner. It does kind of make me wonder, if the other, women are, maybe, subjecting themselves, like what Lindsay Hill, the victim who settled a day ago with Trevor Bauer, is also in it, because we've read the story of punter Matt Arriaza, who was a draft prospect this year, but because of the so-called sexual assault charges that happened in the the campus of San Diego State, where he played, which later turned out to be a hoax, he cleared himself, but he unfortunately still has not found a place, or team to latch on, even though there's a punting need. So, I'm not trying to compare oranges to apples, but there's it seems to be that hopefully Trevor Bauer will find peace within himself. I don't know if he'll have another career in the major leagues, even if he settled all of them, or if there maybe one or two other cases are very similar to what he had described. So, we'll wait and see what happens. He is, seems to have found a home in Japan. His female agent, Rachel Luba, is there frequently, posting it on the YouTube channel, both of them. And his friend and his buddies were recently in Japan, um, you know, seeing him and certainly talking about this case, settling things. And we'll wait and see what happens with Trevor. Hopefully that, we'll hear more about this remaining cases and see if there's more to the story.
Yeah, let me just say this. This is from an ESPN story that's on the settlement. Now, he said that he showed that video showing Ms. Hill with saying it was no bruising, but according to a nurse who, now I just lost it here, but apparently, according to the forensic nurse examiner who performed the sexual assault response team or SART exam on Hill when she went to the authorities. She testified during the initial hearing in August in 2021 that the bruising she documented outside the victim's groin area was unlike any she had seen in her 40 plus years of experience. Now, of course, it's a he said, she said situation. There was enough reason for the case to proceed. And of course, Bauer said that that video showed that there was no bruising. But you know what? It is what it is. Whatever he wants to do is fine. Like I said, as long as he doesn't do it in the United States. Like I said, and like you said, Stephen, he seems to have doing well in Japan professionally, and he seems to, like you mentioned, to find a home there, and that's fine. He can pitch there and make his money there, and as long as it seems to be accepted in Japan, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on to my Chicago Bears. And a week ago, or at least 2 weeks ago, we know that there were so many stories to uncover. You had the Alan Williams resigning. Turned out to be that there was an inappropriate stuff happening inside Hallis Hall. Kind of like maybe similar to what happened to Emi Udoka, who was fired by the Boston Celtics, who has since latched on. Yeah, thanks, Ken. Latched on to Houston Rockets as their new head coach. And so this Chase Claypool stuff really came up on Friday, which was probably nothing, somewhat of a harmless stuff. But I'm going to show you the interview that he did, a Q&A exchange with Courtney Cronin, who covers the Bears for ESPN and ESPN.com here. I think she wanted to, clarify the conversation. There was nothing, intentionally fabricated or taken out. She wanted to protect her own journalism integrity. Excuse me. Have you? Here's the thing. Have you expectations changed from last year when you got traded from here to where you are right now? So the controversial comments here is: do you feel like you've been put in the best position for you as a wide receiver to showcase the best of what you can do? 7-second pause, and then he smiled and says no. So, look, this is the same guy who had a very, very bad opening game against the Packers. He whiffed on several blocks on the screen pass games. His attitude was terrible. It was so bad that he had to apologize to the entire team, as well as the a couple of coaches as well. And I'm assuming also the general manager, Ryan Poles, who stupidly traded away a second-round pick for him last year.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then the Bears had a terrific game for 45, 50 minutes before they completely crapped the game, and it was just not a good game at all. And Matt Eberflus is 100% going to be fired at this point. It's not a matter of if, but when. And that could come as early as Friday, when the Bears, who play the Washington Commanders on Thursday Night Football on Amazon Prime. And there have been reports floating around that Eberflus could be fired if they lose again. That would make it 15 straight games dating back from last year.
Yeah.
So 10 straight losses from last year, plus already 4 straight losses now after you blew a lead. Blew a lead against a very bad Broncos team that lost 70-20 a week before against the Miami Dolphins. And you let them not only get back into the fucking ball game, but you lose the damn game. And Matt Eberflus continuing to offer like sunshines and look at the bright picture crap that we are so tired of listening to him. Like, there is no real progress. You still lost the damn game. Since when did winning and losing became, or winning in this case, became such an afterthought? This is a problem with sometimes when a coach lacks self-awareness and he's desperately trying to hang on to little things like, well, we made progress. We had excellent practices. That's BS, okay? You're a guy who talks about the details and executions. And why is it that this team is still having problems with the executions and details parts when you're a head coach and when you didn't even treat the exhibit preseason games that seriously? And then you ended up treating the first 3 games of the regular season as if it's like a preseason game. And then somehow the offense looks so good for about 45, 50 minutes. Where was this before? And why is there still no accountability with this whole fiasco about Alan Williams and then Chase Claypool? And then people in Chicago are so upset about his press conferences after the game where he doesn't hold anybody accountable, unlike Mike Tomlin of the Steelers, who was pissed and said there's going to be some changes after his team lost to the Houston Texans on Sunday. And then I'm going to pull up an article here from your site, Ken, from Awful Announcing about Eberflus getting bombarded by the local media about his non-answers with regards to a Chase Claypool question, because initially he said it after the game that it was his decision, his as in Claypool's decision to stay home after he was made inactive. But ironically, the PR communication team says no, the organization told him to stay home. Now, it's totally ridiculous. And I went on Twitter and says he blatantly lied about the whole thing. Okay, there's no mistake about that. You don't make that kind of a mistake if you're a true leader. And then there's lack of communication that exists between the organization and the head coach, who is embattled. And there's just basically the organization is just basically pushing the head coaching aside. And a head coach who is very much ill-prepared to face the media and answer a very basic questions about what exactly happened with, Chase Claypool's situation. Why won't you admit it? That he did admit it on when he went to ESPN Chicago's Cap and J Hood show every Monday morning to clarify his statement, saying it was basically in a heat of a game, or he forgot. You're a head coach. You're supposed to maintain your cool, and you're supposed to make sure that this thing is taken in-house. So I'm going to play a clip here of his non-answer about the presser from Monday.
For that. So with that, I'll open up to questions.
Is the plan to keep Chase Claypool away from the team until you trade or waive him?
Yeah. Right now we're just having him stay, not be in the building this week And then again, Ryan does all the trades and transactions, and we'll decide that as we go forward.
So you
Keep
think
him
he's
away?
coming
Why
back?
keep him away from the team right now? What is the rationale behind that?
That's Courtney
Yeah, we
Cronin,
just feel
by
that's
the
the
way.
best for the team. We just,
Why?
yeah, it's just like we said, if we're in the building, we feel that's best for the team. And really, it comes down to this, when you're evaluating players, right? In meetings, in practice, right? And in walkthroughs, all those things, it's important that you evaluate the entire body of work, right? And we just feel that right now, Chase is going to be out of the building is best for our football team.
There's almost no scenario where a team would do this unless that player was done with that team. Is that the case with you, that he's not going to play for the Bears again?
Well, he's not going to be in the building this week, so he's not playing this week. So that we'll see where it goes from there. And again, like I said, Ryan handles all those trades and transactions, and we'll see where it goes.
Would you think there's some possibility that then you would have him out of the building? You would tell him not to come to a game. You'd have him out of the building, not to go to another game, and he would somehow be on the team again at some point and play?
All I'm saying right now is that he's not in the building this week.
What transpired this weekend when you informed him he was going to be inactive?
Meaning what?
What transpired? Something obviously flared up to the point where he was separated from the team for the remainder of the weekend.
Yeah, I would just say that we wanted to. We thought it was best for the team. In terms of what transpired is that we informed him he was inactive and he was not going to be with the team at the game at that point. And then we informed him this morning that he was not going to be here this week.
What was his response when you told him he was going to be inactive? And was that here at House Hall?
It was over the phone in both instances, and his reaction was, we'll keep it there. It's between me and him.
It's obviously a part of this. Obviously, it seems to be triggering your decision to separate him from the team. Why not provide more clarity on what his reaction was to explain why there's this sudden divorce and separation?
Because it's a conversation between us, me, him, and Ryan. So
You should be able to give the factors for why you made the decision, though. Why did it get to this point with Chase?
yeah, I would just say that what we think is best for the team and how we operate here as a football team. With the Chicago Bears. When I came here day one, right, I talked about being on time, being respectful and working hard, and that to me is important for every individual, if it's a staff member, a player, or a coach. And that's where we are. And we feel right now this is the best decision for us.
That answer
Is he
indicates
not
those
doing
are the
those
issues
things,
with
Matt?
Chase. Those are the issues then? The ones you just listed?
I'm just saying that's if we have a standard for that. We have standards for that. And if those standards are met, then everything's good. If it's not, then it's not.
What did you think about him saying at his locker on Friday that he doesn't think that he's being used optimally, that he's not being used correctly?
Well, I would just say that, when we're in the situation we are, we got to find ways to find ways to get things done, right? So that's a player, coach, and everything. I really have no reaction to that one way or the other, but I will say this: we got to find ways as players and coaches to put everybody in position to succeed.
Matt, Tyke has talked to us about finding the right buttons to push with Chase. How frustrating has it been for you as a staff to try different things with them and obviously not break through?
Well, I think when you have when you invest in somebody, right? We invest in all of our players, and I think that's important to find their role. That's our job as coaches, and that's our job as personnel guys, is to say, hey, this is what this role could be for this particular player, and then we got to do a great job as coaches putting them in those positions, and that's what our role as coaches are.
Man, when you guys practiced Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, was Chase in his normal starting wide receiver role in those practices?
Well, leading up to the week, right, we talked about evaluating each player, right, and talking about details, right, of their position, and we talked about a lot of with the position coach, right, and then having each position play their best game, and that was the challenge. And there was a lot of guys rotating in different spots. We were going to evaluate that week based on that. This week alone, and also the weeks prior, the body of work does matter, and we're going to make a decision for inactives or actives, on Saturday.
Why were the conversations over the phone as opposed to?
What's that?
Why were the conversations over the phone as opposed to face to
Well,
face?
we can see that pretty much the examples of Matt Eberflus really baffling Bears fans and really continuing to show no leadership, Stephen. And that's an issue that, yes, we had issues. You had issues with Matt Nagy going in for the last few seasons. But Eberflus seems to show no improvement, as we've seen. As you mentioned, the Bears have not won in almost over a year now.
Right.
As you mentioned, 10 straight games. And really, there's no hope of them defeating the Washington Commanders coming up on Thursday night, unless some miracle happens. They're going to be playing on the road. Justin Fields, as you mentioned, did show some promise on Sunday's game against the Denver Broncos, and then all of a sudden they're up 28-7, if I remember correctly, and then all of a sudden,
yes.
Yeah, and I'm flipping back and forth. I have Red Zone on, and I'm looking over, and I see the score, and I'm like, "Oh, they're up 28-7. They should win this game. Finally, they should have some happiness and joy in Chicago." And then I see 28-14, and then there's an interception, and then there's a fumble, and then there's all types of things that are going wrong. And I'm like looking over and I said, "This can't happen." And then Eberflus has a decision to make, going for points to kick a field goal.
Right.
And then he decides to go for it. And then, of course, it gets stopped. And then eventually Denver comes back. They I think there was a tie game, I think, at that point. Denver had tied the game at that point, 28-28. And then that decision.
We're moving the ball inside the Broncos territory. They had it at 4th and 1. Look, I like the call, but I know it's a two-way street, because that means you don't trust your own defense, which ironically he's the also coordinator for.
Right.
And then he chose the wrong call. Shotgun run when you have a quarterback 5 yards deep from there, and then a terrible offensive line blocking just completely collapsed, and you saw Jeff King and then general manager Ryan Poles just basically completely their souls left from their body from the press box when the 4th and 1 play completely did not go anywhere. And so the Thursday night certainly a game could be the last game for Eberflus. Could the Washington game be the last one? Peter King went to 670 to score on Parkinson Spiegel and said that it could very well be his last game, because you're not going to survive, any coach survive 15 games losing streak. I mean, Ken, you know very well about Hugh Jackson. Hugh Jackson was terrible as a head coach. I referred to Matt Eberflus as a Caucasian Hugh Jackson on Twitter today. He had a non-winning season, I believe, back in 2017. 0-16, they went there, and somehow he still got a third year for some crazy reasons, if I remember, before he was finally fired. So at this point, between the way he handled the Chase Claypool stuff and the lack of wins, the players are probably getting tired and getting pissed off, because it's one thing you haven't won in over almost a year, but when your coach tries to make Chase Claypool, who I know that he's probably not the greatest teammate in terms of efforts and commitment, but you try to lie about him, saying that he went to stay home on his own, and then having to have somebody within the organization clarify, that's not a good look. And the players will start to think, this guy is going to throw me under the bus sooner rather than later, because he and his entire coaching staff has shown no leadership, and they have no redeeming qualities whatsoever. So, Kevin Warren, the new team president, hey, he's going to be, he's going to have to step up at some point, because his, attention cannot be all on getting the new stadium, whether it be Arlington Heights or in Chicago. If the product sucks, nobody's going to pay a top dollar to watch them, even in a shiny new stadium, because those things wore off quickly. And Ryan Poles, he's the one who hired Matt Eberflus. Certainly not an ideal way of pairing a young GM and the candidate that was chosen through executive search, pretty much led by Bill Polian, doing one search, and then embattled Ted Phillips, retired, team president, doing the others. So it's a complete, S show. And it's time for Kevin Warren to make a stand and let him do what he needs to do. And if he has to clean houses to put the quarterback, the head coach, and the GM in the same timeline, so be it.
Right.
We had Mark Trestman fired after 2 years, and GM Phil Emery, who was the man responsible for that debacle back in 2014, was also fired 2 years because he had to take serious responsibility. So I wouldn't be surprised if Warren decides to clean house if Eberflus and the Bears lose Friday. And then if Ryan Poles is also fired because none of the draft picks and the free agents haven't made any significant progress or contribution for the Bears this year. All right, Ken, let's move on quickly. Another Browns game. Deshaun Watson did not play.
Nope.
He was actually healthy, but then your coach, Kevin Stefanski, decided to set him out, or was this Watson's decision?
Again, it's kind of similar to what Matt Eberflus did with Claypool. No one really knows. Deshaun Watson said that he was told to stay home. Again, Kevin Stefanski's not really answering. Instead, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, the rookie backup, played against a Baltimore Ravens team which was licking their chops. I told you, Stephen, last week that Baltimore loves playing in Cleveland, and the Browns only scored 3 points. I mean, you can't win by now. Granted, Nick Chubb is injured. They did show some promise the week before when they won, and they actually ran the ball pretty well. But any gains that they made, they took 2 steps backwards, Stephen, against the Ravens team that is their rival in the AFC North. And I'd have no, this is just a really horrific effort. There were fumbles. There was just seemingly nothing on offense that this team could have done. The Ravens were just licking their chops. They were just sitting there waiting, said, okay, you're going to try and run. We'll stop it. Try and throw. We'll just sack you. And unfortunately, Dorian Thompson-Robinson was thrown to the wolves, and it was just a really horrific effort by the Browns against the Ravens. It always pains me to see the Browns get beat by Baltimore, because that's where the team went to back in 1994. And of course, the Ravens have had some great success since then. And the Browns, of course, came back as Browns 2.0 in 1999 and really haven't had much success since then. So I don't know. This is just, I have no confidence. The Browns going into at least they have a bye coming in for week 5. I won't have to see them. I won't lose body parts. My body parts won't shut down watching them. They just really, there's nothing else I can say except they stunk up the joint against the Baltimore Ravens, and have a bye. And hopefully when you come back, you'll have a better effort. And Deshaun Watson, whatever he does, at this point, Stephen, I really wish that the NFL had relegation, so we would be relegated to the Mountain West and get out of this league, because this is just really, I have
Bears right now too. So.
It was just really it's like you take one step forward, you beat Cincinnati, you beat a Tennessee Titans team, and then you lose to 2 rivals that you should beat, but you have 2 terrible efforts. I mean, of course, against Pittsburgh, you lost Nick Chubb. I totally understand that. The Browns probably weren't in a very great frame of mind to play that game, but they still had a poor effort. And against another effort against the Baltimore Ravens on Sunday, I'm I'm just like you when I talk about the Bears. I'm just very angry. I'm very upset. And like I said, relegate us out to the spot in USA. We don't deserve to be in the national.
All right. Well, we wanted to touch on the the NFL and Taylor Swift mania, but we're against the clock. We're going to try and catch up on again maybe next recording. Excuse me.
Yes.
About the is the NFL kissing up to Taylor Swift? So much misogyny towards the Taylor Swift and their Swifties, and then the grossness of it. So we're going to catch up on that next episode. So as you can see here, we got a lot of sports death this past week, and certainly quite a lot of lists there. Ken, let's start off with Tim Wakefield.
Yeah, Tim Wakefield, as a Red Sox fan, a great pitcher, won 2 World Series with the Red Sox in 2004, 2007. Always had his cleats on for Terry Francona, who also, by the way, Francona's last game was last Sunday for the Cleveland Guardians as a manager. He's retiring. The best Red Sox manager, manager in the history of the Red Sox, won 2 World Series, and also guided them to many postseason games. He relied on Tim Wakefield quite a bit. Wakefield, who then worked on a lot of charities, the president of the Red Sox Foundation, also an analyst on NESN for the studio, and also for games this season. We talked about how he was outed last week by by Kurt Schilling, his condition, and we didn't know how serious it was until he passed away. He talked about apparently, from what we understand, now his wife Stacy is undergoing cancer treatment as well. But he, as you can see there, great things that he's done. He came in 1993, Stephen.
Oh, no, I think he's 92 because I remember him pitching with this Pittsburgh Pirates.
Pirates, yes. He came in 92 and won 16 games right off the bat, and was third in the Cy Young voting that year. But he also did many roles. He was a closer. He was a starter. And as I mentioned, because of that knuckleball, he could really throw a lot of eat-up innings. And again, in the Game 3 of the 2004 American League Championship Series, where the Yankees were up 19, eventually won that game 19-8, Wakefield was willing to eat up a lot of innings and then basically saved
scumbag Schilling, I believe that's next.
No, that's not Tim. That's not him.
Oh,
that's Mike.
Him?
That's Mike Timlin.
I'm so sorry. My bad.
This is in the 2007 World Series.
Okay.
What Wakefield did, he took himself off the roster so John Lester could pitch. And Mike Timlin is saying the reason why we won this World Series is because of Tim Wakefield. You can see Tim was really tearful about that great tribute by Mike Timlin. And Timlin said, and you can see there what he was doing. And he also was inducted into the Red Sox Hall of Fame, a Roberto Clemente Award winner in 2010. And also a guy who did a lot of great things for charity. He will be missed. Died too young at 57, Stephen. And as you can see, won his 200th game, his career game, and that's Heidi Watney now of Apple TV. She was a NESN sideline reporter at the time. And you can see the reaction by Red Sox fans. And he was also given a moment of silence in Baltimore. That's where the Red Sox ended their season on Sunday. So you can see how well loved he was. Mm-hmm. Stace, I wanted to finish the story that he said that earlier this year, around August, he said he was having trouble with his eyes and vision, and that's when they found brain cancer. And that's what he died of, unfortunately. He had his surgery earlier this week. Kurt Schilling, unfortunately, outed that. He disclosed that when the family wanted to keep it private. Hopefully Stacy and his great kids. There's Tom Karen, the Nesson host, who gave him an award that he said was one of the best things best achievements that he had. I think that was in 2016, Stephen. So yeah, we totally remember Tim Wakefield. Also, Chris Snow, a Boston connection as well, the Calgary assistant general manager.
Calgary Flames assistant.
Calgary Flames, Calgary Flames assistant general manager. He was also a writer for the Boston Globe, and that's where he met his wife, Kelsey. He died of complications of ALS. When he was contracted with ALS, he and Kelsey decided to go public with their struggles and try to raise money. Chris Snow, a fantastic person, and Kelsey, with their 2 young daughters, living in Calgary, 2 great people again. He left the Boston Globe. I believe he went to Minnesota for to be in their front office for analytics, and then went to Calgary for the last 3 years. So sad about what he had to go through, but again, he went public with his struggle and tried to raise awareness and money for the ALS research. And hopefully Kelsey and his daughters will continue to be bright lights in the world of sports. Chris Snow, well loved, and we will miss him. And also Russ Francis, the former tight end for the New England Patriots, called all world by Howard Cosell. He was a free spirit from Hawaii, a surfer. He retired from the Patriots for a while and then joined ABC Sports, did an interview with Bill Walsh. And that's when Bill Walsh said, hey, would you like to come back and play? And while Francis didn't necessarily want to, he decided to come back and became a part of the first San Francisco 49ers Super Bowl win. Actually, no, the second one. He did the second. He was in 1984 against the Miami Dolphins. He really redefined the position of tight end, Stephen. Unfortunately, he died in a plane crash in Lake Placid. He had bought the Lake Placid airline, and he was flying along with a passenger. I believe it was from the military. And unfortunately, they crashed on Sunday. Russ Francis, a man who definitely beat to his own drum, like I said, a free spirit, well admired, had a great knowledge of football, and unfortunately died at the age of 70. And Francis was a person, as I mentioned, called all world by Howard Cosell. He didn't like that moniker, but he definitely was someone who was well liked. And then, as you can see there, Wakefield, Snow, and Francis were
all Boston connection. Yeah, all connected to Boston.
And I think that's before the Boston Bruins
game. Yes.
Yeah, at the preseason game, I think tonight or last night at TD Garden. And then finally, we recognize Jim Capel, a writer for ESPN.com, for the old page too. A great writer. He wrote in Minnesota, in Seattle, and at ESPN.com, covered 20 World Series, covered many Olympics. A guy who was a Renaissance man. If you ever want to read some of his articles, they're still up on the ESPN.com website. Also, his nephew, Christian Capel, who also is writing out in the Great Northwest as well, wrote a wonderful tribute to him today. Jim Capel, he also had ALS, but also died of complications from dementia as well. Again, ALS, cancer, dementia, accidents. Good people are taken all over this weekend, Stephen. It's just horrible to see, but Jim Capel, a fantastic writer, but he just didn't write about baseball, Stephen. He said, hey, look, I want to see a game inside the Green Monster at Fenway. And that's what he did. He wrote about that. He also wrote about, hey, I want to do a road trip. Let me do a road trip and write about that. So he always had these great ideas, and he was such a good writer. As mentioned, he had ALS. He is, again, horrible to see these good people taken from us. So,
I'm sure Ken, as somebody who's written in the media, you've probably especially in the New England area, you probably have known these people, on a personal or even on a professional level. So, it's an incredibly tough sports week where, well-known people that, even I've remember reading Jim Capel's ESPN.com's page 2, kind
Yes.
of brought back some memories. And, he was a great baseball writer himself as well. I
Yes.
forgot to mention Russ Francis also won a Super Bowl with the 49ers back in 1984, Super Bowl
Yes,
19
I
as
that.
well. So, yeah, it's a tough way to close out this show, but we also want to pay respect to all 4 of these people, athletes, writers, and front office people who've all made their marks and left a strong impression to all of us in the sporting world. So, on that note, as a bit of a sad note, but we're going to end our show tonight. Hopefully next week we'll have a more clarity on what the Chicago Bears will be doing with the Matt Eberflus situation, and we're going to also be talking about the NFL and Taylor Swift. And courting of her and the misogyny that seems to have followed, unfortunately. Thankfully we didn't have to talk about it, but unfortunately, maybe we'll probably more than likely we'll be talking on that note to lead off our next show. Ken can be found on awfulannouncing.com website. We've featured several of the articles tonight. Ken can be also found on Twitter, formerly Twitter, now X, at Fangs Bites. You can see the scrolling at the, excuse me, not the scrolling, but his Twitter handle there, Fangs Bites. I can be also found on Twitter at Asian Sports Fan. And I also write for the Bear Goggles On, which you can see on the scrolling down below, a part of the fansided.com sports network. Ken, thank you for your time tonight, and have a great night, and we will catch up with you again next week.
Yes, and don't forget, all of our podcasts and all of our live streams are archived on our YouTube channel, which is under the AA team. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And we will see you again next week. And we will, this late night was actually kind of fun, Stephen. Actually, this is being on the 10:15 wasn't so bad. So that was kind of fun.
Thank you. And hopefully, we don't have to do too much of it. Unfortunately, the next couple of weeks will more than likely be this way before I go on another business trip. But thank you for your patience, and thanks for your support again tonight.
Thank you very much, and thank you for watching, and we will see you again next week. Have a good night, everyone.